Hello. Oh my gosh, don't mind me getting comfy on this comfy couch. It's E.Ozie back again. Nothing funny here. I have another video, and this time it's about films. I really love movies, and I'm a filmmaker myself. If you haven't already, go check me out at E.Ozie.com. I'm working on a short film right now that will come out whenever it wants to come out, so stay tuned for that. Some of my favorite movies have to be Sylvie's Love. I really love that movie. Set in the Harlem Renaissance, probably, I love the Harlem Renaissance era. That's definitely the era to be in. As I'm making my own film, I'm thinking of love interests, love in general, and Black women. As a filmmaker myself, I'm definitely doing a lot of researching about the filmmaking industry and all its, good parts, bad parts. And this video is actually based off of a paper I did for a class that earned me an A, so hopefully this paper turned video has A standards to it as well. But I'm really excited for this because I love films, I love movies, I love, romantic comedies or whatnot. So I'm excited to talk about Black women in films and a suggestion to how there could be more of them. When I was originally doing this paper, I was looking at, lists of what's considered popular romantic movies, and I couldn't find a lot of films that include a Black woman lead love interest inside those lists. But now if you go and search up, popular romantic movies, there is some diversity in them. I don't know. Back then, I guess I wasn't searching hard enough, but it was a common sighting to see a lot of films that are included in this list that are predominantly white-led casts. These lists that I were looking at in the past didn't really have a Black female-led woman in the film or a Black cast. This is partly Hollywood's fault, as movies with Black female leads either don't pass the developing stage, or when they get past it, they aren't given the same marketing and advertising budget as their white counterpart heavily involved films. I'm just really trying to suggest a solution to how this could change. It's not like the end-all be-all of all things. Of course, it's my opinion based on facts, based on research, and based on my own opinion even. But it's not like it's gonna be affected in the film industry right now, or it's just a suggestion. There's of course only so much you can do with a suggestion, and there's definitely things that could go wrong and whatnot, but it's a suggestion. What I'm trying to say is basically Hollywood believes that movies with Black women seen as desirable love interests get sell. So because of this, film distribution companies and film studios need to include Black women focus groups on the movie making process to change the narrative and disprove the Hollywood belief. I know what you're thinking. How is the filmmaking industry going to include specifically Black women focus groups in the process? Well, we have to take it back to the beginning. The Hottentot.
Thank you, E.Ozie, for passing it off to me, E.Ozie in the fake studio. I realize I was mispronouncing that word very much wrong throughout the entire segment of this video, so I will be doing voiceover, but don't worry, E.Ozie on the comfy couch will be back. Just imagine this as the little voice in her head or something, I don't know. But basically, back to what I was saying, there was a single core image of the Black woman in the 19th century. The Hottentot, my gosh, that word is disgusting and also hard for me to say. The Hottentot was what was used to describe the single core image of the Black woman in the 19th century. Social theorist Zine Magubane illustrates this issue by talking about Sandra Gilman, the historian, and his examination of Sarah Bartman, a Black woman who in the 19th century was seen as an icon for analyzing the difference between Europeans and Blacks. Gilman argues that because of her unique, observable physical differences, Bartman represented Blackness in whole. He thus concludes that while many groups of African Blacks were known to Europeans in the 19th century, the Hottentot remained representative of the essence of the Black, especially the Black female. And the description of how the Hottentot look like. It feels more like an animal description than actually human, but the Hottentot female was seen as a black woman with large buttocks, an elongated labia, immodest, and had unrestrained sexual appetite.
Characterizing a group of people based off of race or gender to all be the same. I wonder if that's carried over into the 21st century. It has. From the scholar Brier Evans, the depictions of black women in film can be characterized in the following themes: Mommy, Jezebel, and Sapphire.
Get Claire Luna down here right now, or I'm gonna jump.
Pronto. What?
Yep, I'm gonna jump.
Hey. This isn't funny. No.
I don't paint this whole downstairs with blood, teeth, and hair.
No.
Let's do it.
Not.
We are not bluffing. Get Claire Luna right
now.
Oh, shit!
In the clip I should have hopefully just showed you, like a boss, Tiffany Haddish's character shows characteristics of a stereotyped Sapphire, also known as an angry black woman. She has sassy behavior, bossy, and is many times inclined to be mean-spirited. This notion, I think, still lives on, which is why there are very few black women in romantic comedies unless there is a heavy influence of a black creative team in the movie, on the movie, in the background of the movie. An example of this would be the movie The Photograph, which was written and directed by a black woman, Stella Maggie, featuring black characters falling in love.
I wrote The Photograph about 5 years ago. It started off kind of with an idea when you wouldn't think of. It was my grandmother kind of being reunited with a daughter she had not seen in over 30 years. And I was experiencing what she was experiencing and ended up flipping that into kind of a more romantic love.
Most romantic comedies that feature a black woman as a love interest, in the few that I believe there is, usually have a black woman or man in position of power. The truth is, if someone isn't behind the scenes advocating for positive representation in the film, it just won't happen. Now, I really feel like this all boils down to what I included, I guess, in my opening statement. It's a distribution problem.
White people holding most of the power in the film industry overrides the many people who are advocating for positive representation of black women in films. The most important issues with white people holding most of the power in the film industry comes from their idea that black movies, or movies with a large presence of a black cast or leads, can't sell. There are plenty of examples of black movies that do well, especially overseas. For example, Hidden Figures, the 2016 film about 3 black women NASA scientists in the 1960s, made $165.5 million in the US and an additional $48.8 million overseas. Black professionals believe this problem lies in distribution, which is the last frontier of filmmaking. Film distributors get to decide the print and advertising budgets for films, sometimes giving less to movies with more black leads. This is the case when most distributors in the industry are white, acting as gatekeepers with subjective evaluations affecting the relationship between filmmaker and the audience. This is why I'm choosing to focus on both movie production and distribution, because making more romantic films with black women leads doesn't solely solve the problem.
One potential solution that can solve the problem is anonymizing movie pitches and scripts. I hope no one can tell the way I pronounce anonymizing, because that's just they added a Y in there, and it really hurts my tongue.
There's a high potential that racial bias comes into play in the movie production and distribution process when deciding if a black woman should play in romantic comedies. Because of this, a possible alternative solution to the problem would be removing any racial identifying information in movie scripts and pitches. Once information like this is removed, studio executives and film distribution buyers would not know the race of characters when selecting which movies to produce and market. The idea of this solution is based on implicit bias theory. Irene v. Blair, PhD, and others define implicit bias theory when talking about health disparities as something that operates in an unintentional and even unconscious manner. They add, implicit bias can be activated quickly and unknowingly by situational cues, for example, a person's skin color or accent, silently exerting its influence on perception, memory, and behavior. Using this understanding of implicit bias theory, I imagine pitching movies or finding a distributor the same way as blind recruitment.
Look around the Toronto Symphony and you'll see the impact blind recruitment has had. All these musicians auditioned behind a screen, their race and gender unknown to those hiring. It's gone from all white, all male in the 70s to something much more diverse today.
When a screenwriter, director, etc. is pitching their film, they would omit any signifiers about themselves and their pitch that would give away race, ethnicity, and possibly the setting of a movie. This would allow a studio hearing the pitch not to have unconscious bias based on cultural stereotypes or assumptions in reviewing what movie they would produce. A study done anonymizing resumes published in 2016 in the Administrative Science Quarterly Journal showed that while 25.5% of resumes received callbacks if African American candidates' names were whitened, only 10% received a callback if they left their name and experience unaltered. This similar effect possibly could be seen in having more diverse films on screen, but there are a lot of constraints with this, which is why I'm rejecting this solution. This solution is being rejected because it feels like whitewashing. The process of pitching a movie is not the same for every studio, and it wouldn't really help in the distribution stage. Sometimes when reading scripts, knowing the race, ethnicity, gender of characters, and the setting helps to understand the story better. If you were to remove this information, it would feel like a piece of the story is missing and may result in an unsuccessful pitch. Also, when doing this action, it would make sense to replace information possibly subduing pitches with white-sounding names. For some movies, such as the American romantic comedy Wet Men Wet, which was released in 2019, understanding the main character is a black woman sports agent would explain the nuances of situations she gets herself into in the film.
Not only did you blow this signing, you gave Ethan the idea that could very well f our business model completely.
Okay, this is not all of my fault.
I mean, if I didn't think I'd get crucified by all those Me Tooers, I'd fire your today.
Oh, so you're saying you're not firing me because I'm a woman?
No, not just that.
Oh, so you're not firing me because I'm a black woman?
No. I didn't say that because that'd be racist and sexist.
No.
The movie would have been different if the main character was a white woman instead of a black woman, which would alter how the pitch would have been received. Along with that, the process of a movie being made is not the same for every studio or producer. A common way for new filmmakers and writers to pitch is in a meeting with executives and investors where the pitch lasts for about 30 minutes. Movies also get picked up by having one-on-one lunch with executive or being a well-known screenwriter in the industry. The point is, process of acquiring movie rights is not always the same, so it would be hard to regulate anonymizing information in a process that isn't uniform everywhere. Also, the solution feels like it handles more of the movie production side than the film distribution side, which is again the part of the problem I wanted to address with the belief that movies with a black woman love interest can't sell. After a movie is produced, there's not that much that can be left hidden when film distribution companies think of how to market a film, because essentially you need to understand a full story to determine its audience. These reasons are constraints, which is why I propose a different solution based on creating a focus group. I propose a focus group comprised of black women of various backgrounds, utilized largely and earlier on in the movie production and distribution process. The group would be comprised of college students in film studies, mothers, married women, single women, etc. Focus groups would be involved in the pitching room for movies under the genre of romantic comedies, whether a role is written for a black woman or not. The focus group could share thoughts on how a movie that pitched originally without a black lead could be different with the diverse cast. It is really up to the film studio if they would implement these suggested changes once they acquire the rights to the movie. Once they acquire the rights and place a black woman that isn't stereotyped as the lead, this would encourage the movie house to hire a black director, producer, writer, or other form of leadership in the movie in addition to the person who pitched it, regardless of race.
Because it doesn't matter what the movie preaches, if there isn't a crew behind the scenes representing the diversity of the movie, the gap will continue to widen.
The focus group would be involved in distribution, becoming a representative of the marketplace. Since the focus group would be all black women, they would become aides in understanding how to market to the audience of black people in various backgrounds. This solution is formulated with the theoretical framework of oppositional gaze theory in mind. The term oppositional gaze was coined by bell hooks in 1992, where it's described as subordinates in relations of power learn experientially that there is a critical gaze, one that looks to document, one that is oppositional. In resistance struggle, the power of the dominated to assert agency by claiming and cultivating awareness politicizes looking relations. One learns to look a certain way in order to resist. Hooks is saying that people in inferior positions take the oppositional gaze in resistance to being labeled as the other. This suggests that when black female spectators take on the gaze, they can critique the film as itself, as well as the filmmaker, the audience, and the stakeholders in the situation, as resistance to the lack of representation of black women in films. Developing this gaze in the movie production room would be important, as film distributors have a history of not supporting films they can connect with. Black professionals cite white decision-makers' failure to relate to black content as a key obstacle to financing. Marketing teams need to be on board to select the film, but if they don't feel comfortable with the story, it limits the number of buys. A focus group would challenge this issue and put more money into black-led films, as a study done by Variety Business Intelligence showed films with black off-screen talent have smaller budgets despite higher earnings. A movie focus group is also not something new to the film industry. Movie focus groups have been used to gather opinions on films that can change movie plots, characters, and avoid unnecessary finances. Though there is not much history or research in using an all-black woman focus group, it is supported by looking at the different films and TV shows that could have benefited from one. For example, the Amazon Prime show Modern Love, which is an anthology series based on the New York Times column of the same name, featured only white actresses as love interests. The issue with this show is that it was set in modern New York times, based on real stories, yet it didn't have women of different races falling in love. This show could have benefited from a focus group, not specifically all black women, but diverse women to input how this show doesn't reflect the demographics and real stories of New York. Implementing a focus group seems more effective than saying film studios need to hire more black women executives. They could hire more executives, but in lots of rooms where white superiority dominates, it would be hard to change opinions if it was just one or two executives. But rather, things could change with a whole coalition and discussion involving several black women. Well, that's really the end of this video.
So, I threw a lot of information. Basically, what I'm trying to say is movies that show black women as desirable love interests are believed to not sell well in the box office, and this is based on white people being decision makers. Since there is a misleading opinion on black women playing love interests in romantic comedies, film studio executives and film distributors need to create black women focus groups that critique films and add feedback on diversity. The ongoing issue is due to the historical and societal context with being how black women are portrayed in film that most film executives can't understand. Once the solution is implemented, it would show black girls they can also fall in love. Essentially, black women in film would benefit because more roles will be offered to them, and since black movies do sell overseas, it would mean more money for studios, which they can use and invest in producing more content that has black women leads. These focus groups could indirectly benefit other women of color, as focus groups with their background in mind can be created as well.
Now, going back to what I originally said in the beginning, if I were to list out some American classic and popular romantic movies such as Love Actually, The Notebook, 13 Going on 30, Titanic, Silver Linings, and La La Land, chances are the average millennial moviegoer would know at least one of them. Inside these classic movies, there is a common theme though: white women falling in love. In romantic comedies, white women are depicted as love interests more than black women, and this may be due to the decisions behind the screen. White people lead as decision makers in the film industry. As white people make most of the decisions, they inherently affect what movies get more investments and what appears on screen, possibly led by bias. Their decisions leave black, indigenous, and people of color systematically underrepresented, which does not reflect a country that is ethnically diverse.
I'm filming my ending part because it closed out right before I was gonna mention BTS. But, all my videos have to do something with BTS, so let's find a way. American Hustle Life. There was a lot of black women in that show. If you know, you know. Also, one day, I'm gonna work with BTS in a film, so I'm just prophesying that, so. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. Also, A24, that's gonna happen for sure. That's it for this video. I probably put it in the description box, but you can go and I believe I'll have a Kickstarter there. where you can be notified when I release my short film or have an exclusive viewing party for it. I don't know. But yeah, you can go click that and be updated when that short film gets released. But that's it for this video. Thank you so much. I just burped. Have a great day.